The sun beat down over the endless plains, turning the dirt roads into shimmering ribbons of heat. The wind carried only the sound of cicadas and the distant hum of cattle. Rancher Luke McAllister had ridden farther than usual that morning, searching for a lost calf near the river bend when his horse suddenly stopped, ears flicking, nostrils flaring. Something wasn't right. He slid from the saddle, eyes scanning the tall grass. Then he heard it, a low groan, human, weak. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. Just another groan, pained and frightened. Pushing through the brush, Luke's heart jumped when he saw her, a young woman lying against a fallen log, clutching her leg. Her face was pale, streaked with sweat and dust, and her breathing was ragged. A few feet away, a rattlesnake slithered back into the shadows, its tail silent now that its strike had found its mark. The woman tried to speak, but her lips trembled. "Help! Please," she whispered. "It bit me." Luke dropped to his knees beside her, his hat falling into the dirt. "Where?" She pointed weakly to her lower leg. Two small punctures already swelling fast beneath the torn edge of her skirt. The skin around it was turning red and angry. "Damn it," Luke muttered. "You're lucky I came by." Her eyes fluttered open. Don't let me die out here." "You won't," he said firmly. "Not on my land." He grabbed his canteen, splashing water on the wound to clean it. The bite was bad, fresh but deep. The poison was spreading quickly. She whimpered as he tightened his bandana above her knee to slow the venom's crawl. Then her trembling hand caught his wrist. "Suck it out," she said hoarsely. "Please, it's really swelling." Luke hesitated, glancing from her leg to her face. She was terrified, and he knew she was right. If he didn't do something fast, she might not make it. Without another word, he bent down, pressed his lips against the wound, and drew in the venom, spitting it out again and again. The bitter taste of earth and fear filled his mouth. But he kept going until the swelling seemed to stop spreading. When he finally sat back, wiping his mouth, he noticed her breathing had steadied, her eyes fluttering as she clung to consciousness. "You're going to be all right," he said quietly. She gave a weak smile. You saved me." Luke pulled off his gloves and examined her leg again. The bleeding had slowed, but she was still trembling. "We need to get you back to my ranch. You need rest and some clean bandages." He wrapped her leg carefully in cloth, then lifted her into his arms. She was light, too light, and as he carried her to his horse, her head rested against his chest. "Thank you," she whispered faintly. "You didn't even ask who I am." Luke gave a small smile. "Doesn't matter. You're a human being. That's enough for me." The ride back was slow. The woman drifted in and out of consciousness, the color slowly returning to her face. When they reached the ranch, Luke carried her inside and laid her on a cot near the window. As he cleaned her wound again, she stirred. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Maria," he nodded. "Well, Maria, you're safe now. You'll rest here till you can walk." But when she turned her head slightly, the sunlight hit the chain around her neck, and Luke's heart stopped. There, hanging just above her collarbone, was a silver emblem, shaped like a hawk, a symbol he knew too well. It was the mark of the Del Rio family, the same family that had stolen half his cattle, burned his barns, and driven his brother off the land 5 years ago. Luke froze. She saw the look in his eyes and swallowed hard. "You know it, don't you?" His voice was low. "Yeah, I know it." For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind outside rattled the windows, and somewhere in the distance thunder rolled. Maria's voice broke the silence. "You weren't supposed to find me. I was running from them, from my own people." Luke frowned. "Running why?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Because they tried to trade me for more land. I escaped. They'll come for me, and when they do, they'll burn this place too." Luke stood slowly, jaw tightening. "Then I'll be ready for them." She shook her head. "You don't understand who they are." He leaned closer, eyes cold as steel. "No, Maria, you don't understand who I am." Outside, lightning split the sky, and the first drops of another storm began to fall. By nightfall, The wind was howling through the plains, the kind of wind that made the wooden shutters tremble and the oil lamps flicker like frightened souls. Luke sat by the window, his rifle laid across his knees. Outside, the horizon flashed with distant lightning, and beyond it he could almost feel them coming. Maria was asleep on the cot, her face pale but peaceful. The swelling in her leg had gone down, and her breathing had steadied. She looked fragile under the thin quilt, a woman caught between two worlds, hunted by one and distrusted by the other. Luke had told himself he'd only keep her safe until she could walk again. But as he watched her sleep, something deeper stirred in him. She wasn't just another stranger he'd rescued. She was someone fate had dropped into his life, a reminder of the good man he used to be before the war, before loss, before bitterness turned his heart to stone. A crack of thunder split the sky, shaking the window pane. Luke's hand instinctively gripped his rifle. Then he heard it, the low, rhythmic thud of hooves. He stood up slowly. They're here. Outside, 5 riders emerged through the sheets of rain, their torches bright against the storm. The man in front wore a black coat and a hat with a silver band. His horse snorted, steam rising in the cold air. Luke knew him immediately. Antonio del Rio, the man who'd stolen his family's land and forced his brother into the desert. Antonio called out over the storm. "Luke McAllister, we don't want trouble. We're just here for what belongs to us." Luke stepped out onto the porch, his rifle steady in his hands. The rain soaked through his shirt, but he didn't care. "You mean who belongs to you?" Antonio smiled darkly. "A man doesn't need to fight over property, Luke. He only needs to claim it." Luke spat into the mud. "She's not property. She's a person." Antonio laughed. "You always were the noble fool. You'd risk your neck for a woman who doesn't even belong to your kind. She's not yours to take. Is that so?" Antonio nodded toward his men. "Search the house." Luke raised his rifle. "The first one who moves dies where he stands." The men hesitated. The rain hammered harder now, lightning slicing the sky. For a moment no one moved. Then a voice behind Luke broke the silence. "Stop." Maria stood in the doorway, her blanket wrapped around her shoulders, her hair plastered to her face by the rain. She stepped forward slowly, ignoring Luke's warning look. "Antonio," she said softly, "please don't do this." Antonio's expression shifted, part triumph, part bitterness. "You should have stayed where you belonged, Maria. You embarrassed me before my men, before my father. You wanted to own me," she said. "Not love me? There's a difference." Antonio's eyes hardened. "Love is for equals. You were born to serve, not choose." Luke's jaw clenched. "That's enough." But before he could react, Antonio's hand moved, lightning fast, reaching for the pistol at his side. Luke fired first. The crack echoed through the storm, drowning out the thunder. Antonio's gun flew from his hand, and he fell to one knee, clutching his arm with a snarl. "Stay down," Luke warned. Antonio looked up at him with pure hatred. "You've made a mistake you can't undo, McAllister." He stood shakily, rain streaming down his face. "You think saving her makes you a hero? You don't even know who she really is." Luke frowned. "What do you mean?" Antonio smirked. "Ask her about her father. Ask her what she's running from." Then he spat into the mud, mounted his horse with his good arm, and rode off with his men, disappearing into the storm. When silence returned, Luke turned to Maria. Her eyes were full of tears, her lips trembling. "What did he mean?" he asked quietly. She turned away, hugging herself. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." Maria sank to her knees on the porch, her voice breaking. "My father isn't just a landowner, Luke. He's the chief of the Del Rio Empire. Antonio isn't my captor. He's my promised husband. My father made the deal to join their lands, but I refused. I ran." Luke stared at her, the truth hitting like a bullet. "So you're the Del Rio heiress?" She nodded weakly. "The daughter of the man who ruined your family." The rain softened to a drizzle. The sound of it filled the long silence between them. Luke's heart pounded. Every part of him wanted to be angry, to curse her name, to send her away. But then he looked at her face, tired, bruised, trembling, and all he could feel was compassion. "You didn't choose your father," he said finally, "and I won't judge you for his sins." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "After everything he's done to you, why would you help me?" Luke took a long breath, looking out at the horizon where the storm was breaking into pale light. "Because no one helped my brother when he needed saving. I swore if I ever had the chance to be better, I would." She reached out, taking his hand. "Then let me help you now." Luke frowned. "Help me how?" Her voice steadied. "Antonio won't stop, but I know where my father keeps the deeds, all the land he stole, all the proof you need to take it back. If we ride before dawn, we can end this for good." Luke's eyes widened. "You'd betray your own family." Maria's gaze was firm, unwavering. "I'd rather lose my blood than lose my soul." As the first light of morning broke through the clouds, Lou,